So up until now, I've talked about what happened my first day at Camp Trans, basically. The second night, on Tuesday night, we had what's called a vigil scheduled, which the vigil's held right outside the gates of Mishfest on the clearing across the street, across the dirt road from it where the original Camp Trans was. And I guess that's what it was, is like an homage, I guess, and a reminder, and it's a chance for, all the festies, all the fest attendees to come out and talk to us and see, learn about the cause, whatever. And so everyone from camp went up there, and they were going to do, history or herstory of Camp Trans, and then have some little performances and shit. But it was interrupted, and this is where it gets, the drama starts, really. And I can really just only speak to what I saw from this point on. And what I witnessed, I was sitting on the same side that Mishfest is on the hill there. There's a little hill with grass on it. And I'm just going to try and give the account as, factually as possible. So there was, outside the gate there, a tow truck. It was idling. The guy was just sitting in it. He was waiting for a car, someone inside the gates, a fest attendee that had called for it. Their car was broken down or whatever. I don't know how they drove it outside. Well, if they needed to tow badly, I don't know. Maybe they busted their radiator or something. So I still don't understand that. Someone suggested to me that maybe they couldn't let the driver in because he was male, and they couldn't let a male in the land for that reason. Yeah, they're that anal. So I still don't understand why the situation happened in the first place in that way. Anyway, but the driver was nevertheless, it was there. This tow truck was idling, and again, there was someone trying to give this history report or whatever to everyone, and it was kind of loud. It was kind of distracting anyway. So someone from the group went over to ask them to turn it down, either shut the truck off or move it. I don't know what language was used. I couldn't hear it. But it didn't look aggressive. And I think one or two people went over there first. I can't remember whether it was one or two because I wasn't watching that much. But the driver did seem, even to me, from where I was sitting, to just immediately react with hostility. And the person that had initially walked up to the truck, said that they had threatened them. Truck driver got out of his truck and reached into the back and grabbed the tow chain and a tow hook, basically brandishing the tow hook. Which I know what a tow hook is because I used to run a wrecker. I'm a mechanic. But it's a big giant fucking hook, basically. Big metal hook, not like a big, not a light instrument. So yeah, and then a whole group of people that were sitting on the hill rushed over to their defense, and words were exchanged. I don't really know what words were exchanged. The driver had moved his truck, but I'm not sure if it was before he moved his truck or after he misgendered a trans woman that was standing in this crowd, called them he, and then referred to them as it. You know, your typical stupid redneck. The same thing that happened to Erin at the hospital. You know, your typical, like, well, if you're not a male or a female, you're an it, and that's what I'm going to call you because I'm a bigot type response. And at least that's what I gathered from it. And that just, everyone got very upset about that. That was in the crowd. And the driver just continued to not give a fuck. During this time, I think it was during that time. It might have been sooner, because I know it was pretty soon after the altercation started. 2 workers from the gate at Mitchfest came over, and they were basically telling all the people in the crowd to back off, you know, and that the truck driver had done a lot for Mitchfest and all this stuff. Yeah, and you know, it seemed to me the attitude seemed to be, oh, the queers are just a nuisance and we don't want them around here. That did seem to me to be the attitude. Of both the Mitchfest workers and the tow truck driver. So people were, again, this just caused just everyone to just get completely upset or angry, and you know, trying to advise the festie not to go with this guy. She had a daughter with her, all this kind of stuff, and people were crying, people were upset. Some people just walked back to camp, others stayed there trying to plan an action, some kind of direct action, which I don't know. I'd have been all for, actually. I was all for doing something right afterwards, because that's right when it happened. If you're going to respond to anything, you respond to it immediately. But you do it non-violently. Especially if you're just trying to call attention to something else, which is what you're doing by any kind of action at that point. Once the tow truck driver is gone and shit. Which is what happened. You just put the car up and left, you know, after more people attempted to exchange words with him from the camp. But it was a general thought that everyone should return back to Camp Trans, and I did. I was hungry too. And I almost expected a meeting that night, but there wasn't anything until the next day. So okay, they waited till the next day to plan any kind of response, and at the meeting it was proposed, and then everyone seemed to agree that everyone from camp should march onto the land into Mitchfest, you know, chanting, carrying signs, all this stuff. And we would try, a few, especially trans-identified women, excuse me, would try and take the stage. And you know, read some statement about what had happened. Sorry. So, and I was down for that. I was down for being, you know, one of the people who went on stage, especially someone who identifies as someone who ought to be on the land or whatever, you know, someone who wasn't a traitor to their space. Didn't feel like it was anyway. Everyone, we even went around the meeting. This was a community meeting with everyone at camp, and we even went around the meeting, and everyone seemed to be if they weren't willing to, you know, take part in it, they were at least in, you know, support of whoever would do something or would take whatever action. So okay, the general consensus seemed to be that yes, that's a good plan of action. That's an amiable plan of action. And we broke, you know, it took a while for anything to happen. It did, because shit was supposed to happen right afterwards, and people kind of ran off, and it wasn't until that afternoon that anything started with this taking part in this action or any kind of planning or anything. I'm probably gonna have to cut this video off and talk about that in another video, because that's a lot too. Because more drama ensued.